What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Politics with Steve. All right, y'all. So, y'all know the drill. Before we get started, I want to ask everybody to take a second, subscribe to my YouTube page, sign up for my email list. Those are the best ways to stay in the loop on all things Politics with Steve. Without further ado, let's get to it. All right, so we're going to start today with pretty bad news. The Democrats caved to the Republicans on the shutdown. Again, terrible news for regular Americans, and it is the reason we need new leaders in the Democratic Party. But what does this actually mean for everybody? This means that healthcare costs will rise for tens of millions of people, and a lot of people will lose coverage altogether. When I say literally everybody, I literally mean everybody, regardless of your insurance plan, whether it is private insurance, employer insurance, or, government insurance. The Republican Party has successfully convinced their supporters to agree to pay higher healthcare costs so that the richest 5% of Americans can get tax breaks. And all they had to do was slap Obama's name on it. Obamacare. It's the Affordable Care Act. And let's not forget the cherry on top, the claim that illegal immigrants somehow benefit from it. By the way, the claims about illegal immigrants, just false. It's always been illegal to spend healthcare money allocated by Congress on illegal immigrants. Let me break this lie down a little bit more just to really help people understand what is exactly going on here. Because people saying things like, illegal immigrants are the only ones to get free healthcare is just insane. So if I'm trying to make sense of the illegal immigrants lie, I think what they're referring to is the fact that when anyone, regardless of whether they're legal or illegal, goes into an emergency room in the United States, the law requires hospitals to treat emergencies. Again, that's regardless of citizenship. You can say that ultimately these people that don't have insurance, the bill will ultimately fall on taxpayers, but that doesn't change regardless of this funding bill that just got passed. It just hurts everybody else. Immigrants will still be able to use the healthcare system the exact same way, regardless of what Republicans cut out of the healthcare bill. The allocated money from Congress had nothing to do with providing illegal immigrants free healthcare. Like, it is literally against the law. Like, these claims are laughable. Again, immigrants have never received free healthcare from the US government. Again, the only tax burden is the emergency room visits. And like I said, this funding bill is not changing that law. They will still have to take anyone that has an emergency at the emergency room. Another common lie is that Obamacare is the reason that people insurance premiums has risen. Again, just false. A person's insurance premiums rise simply because private insurers keep raising costs. Obamacare has nothing to do with that. Now, what Obamacare is responsible for is insurance companies not being able to deny people coverage for pre-existing conditions. I can guarantee you that without Obamacare, your premiums will definitely rise. Because when so many people lose their healthcare insurance, insurance companies will have to squeeze their remaining customers to make up those lost profits. So again, they convince so many people to be outraged by something that's benefiting them. I mean, you cannot make this stuff up. You literally have the same people harmed by the reduction in affordable care subsidies cheering this on. Let me show y'all some of the stuff that I seen on Twitter. Like, this here is crazy. Let me show y'all. All right, so first up, let's look at this clown. They caved, all caps. The government shutdown is over. It's reopening. It was all a game. The Democrats wanted to shut down right before the elections. Blah, blah, blah. Here's my response to this person. Cooked his ass. And honestly, this is just like, Whenever I see people bragging about this, what I think of is, are you a billionaire? If the answer is no, literally all I hear is, yay, the Republicans get to rise healthcare costs for millions of people just to give billionaires a tax break. Exactly what I put there. I mean, that is literally what happened. Um, enough of that clown. So let me explain exactly why that is. I want everybody to understand that the government has a hard cap on its spending budget, right? So they say the government is expected to spend, X in the next number of years. The federal budget is driven by the amount of tax revenue that the government plans to collect. So, in order to give billionaires tax breaks, the government needs to factor into the budget that it will be collecting less revenue. You can't collect less revenue and spend the same amount of money. Therefore, cuts need to be made. And the cuts were to healthcare subsidies because, Republicans don't care about people. I'll give another example and we're going to use some nice round numbers. It would be no different if you had a job making $100,000 a year and you left that job for a job bringing in less revenue, so about $60,000 a year. You'd have to cut your spending. Maybe you would be looking at eating out less. Maybe you would be looking at shopping less, but you'll have less money to work with. Y'all do realize that if a politician ever wanted to do something very bad and unpopular, such as stripping healthcare away and driving up costs for tens of millions of people just to give billionaires tax breaks, they would never say that because it would be very unpopular. So how would they go about it? They would do exactly what they're doing. They would demonize it, lie on it, promise something better that will ultimately never come. The left did not want the government to be shut down. But understand this. It's not the Democrats' job to support Republicans' bad policies. There was never a vote in which the Democrats voted, yes, we want to shut down the government. No. The vote was on a funding bill that basically did not address any policies that the Democratic Party wanted. And they are not required to vote on a funding bill that don't address their priorities. The vote was against bad policies. And if you don't have a funding bill in place, the result is the government shuts down. Again, it is not up to the Democratic Party to get Republican policies pushed through. Even Republicans agree with this. When the Democrats control the House, Senate, and the White House, Republicans will also argue that it's not our job to support Democrats' bad policies, or what they would say is bad policies, and they would vote against, the Democrats' bill. And then they also said that a shutdown would be to blame of the Democrats in that case. I'll show y'all the evidence. Bam, archives. We always have archives. This is from 2021. The New York Times reported that Senate Republicans blocked a bill that would avert a government shutdown. And the House GOP said the last time we checked, Democrats controlled the House, Senate, and White House. If there's a government shutdown, it's because of the Democrats. Again, this is not controversial. Even Donald Trump admitted that the president is the person to be blamed in the event of a government shutdown. In 2021, he literally said that the president is to blame because they're the person that's responsible for bringing people together.
My opinion, I hear the Democrats are going to be blamed and the Republicans are going to be blamed. I actually think the president would be blamed. If there is a shutdown, and it's not going to be a horrible shutdown because, as you know, things will sort of keep
Well, it's a partial shutdown, right?
If there is a shutdown, I think it would be a tremendously negative mark on the president of the United States. He's the one that has to get people together.
You don't bring people together by not negotiating. You do that by negotiating with the other party so that y'all can reach a deal that they could support, not by refusing to negotiate and forcing pain on American citizens until the other side cave. And that is what happened here. Again, this funding bill is terrible, and this entire situation is terrible. And for the people that's saying, you know, if the Democrats didn't cave, then, Trump would not pay out SNAP and people would die. Not paying out SNAP is fucking illegal. That's what was being litigated in court. And furthermore, how many people do y'all think will die now as a result of this healthcare situation? Not having healthcare, like none of this makes sense. This Republican deal to reopen the government, I keep telling y'all, tens of millions of people will lose healthcare or pay 2 to 3 times more in healthcare premium. It's just tragic.